despite all the rain that we saw hours and days before, no rain in the forecast. Beautiful weather. Did the Almighty's children, the vendors, many of who had to do something to make some monies, did they make the money that they needed to pay bills and even their mortgages? I mean, you know, you can define success, but success for whom? That's why I say, let us look at this in a sober way. Perhaps you, the people, would wish to analyze and express why you feel it may have been a smashing success or not. And that's why I'm opening my lines for you today, because, you know, listen, as I said, politicians want to see a crowd. Look at the people. Crowds mean success to politicians. Does crowds mean success to you? Let's talk. Because I'm sure there are many wonderful things that happen at the carnival, because I enjoyed a part of it myself very much. That was Saturday night when I saw all those Bahamians on stage and they put on a wonderful, beautiful, excellent show. I loved it. I was very pleased, very proud of it. Enjoyed it thoroughly. The Bahamians on stage, Ira Storr and Ronnie Butler and D-Mac and them and Funky D and them. Oh, I loved it. This was the real McCoy as far as I was concerned. But you know what? Paul Major, who's the chairman, apparently still doesn't believe that Bahamians could have done anything magnificent, because his views expressed in the newspapers was that Bahamians couldn't attract the crowds. They couldn't attract any international people, not the Bahamian musicians. He says he was glad that we had the experience. Now we can rebuke the position and move on to big and better things, where someday there'll be no debate about that, talking about the Bahamian musicians. He says, I think we are in denial. I think we have to get past that if we are to progress as a country. That's a simple fact, particularly if you want to get more foreigners involved. That's why we wanted an international artist. He said that the crowd showed more support to Montano than Bahamen, who also performed on Friday night. He says Bahamen may be great artists. He says, but and they sounded very good, but they didn't have the same impact for the kind of event we were having that Michael Montano or some other international people would have had. So this is an indication as to where we may be going, as far as I'm concerned. And so despite all the arguments for the Bahamian artists that they wanted to play, based upon what I'm reading, it seems as if these guys are not really up to scratch to attract any international visitors at the level that we had been anticipating. But did Montano attract them? He was here. The people knew of it. A lot of natives went out and they cheered and they had a good time. And I understand Montano was excellent. He didn't get on, that was too late for me. He didn't get on until 3:35 in the morning. Bahamen didn't get on until 1:40 thereabouts. That was too late for me. And then ZNS had already gone off too, so we didn't get to see it. But the point what I'm making is that, how do we define success at this early venture? I suppose we are saying success because we saw the crowds. I put it to you, if it was crowds that you were looking for, it was indeed a success. But if it was the impetus of meeting the objectives as set out to stimulate the economy, then I believe we missed it. But time will tell. The Prime Minister was quick, though, to say that it was a smashing success. In fact, he didn't only say that. He says that Christie said that he silenced the critics with the outpouring support for the inaugural Bahamas Junkanoo Carnival. He viewed it as a smashing success, and the $9 million was well spent. So, I guess we spent $9 million. The last time we checked, Paul Major was saying that we had spent $6 million. I suppose now that the Prime Minister says that the $9 million was well spent, I suppose we've spent $9 million. Do you suppose that there'll be any forensic study, any accounting of this? It's important, so that we can get it right. I believe it's a beautiful idea. I've said that. I think a big festival in the Bahamas is an excellent idea. I think it can stimulate the economy for real. But I think, too, that we've got to do the work to get it done. Not just talk. We've got to actually do the work. We've got to market it internationally ahead of time. We've got to go and bring and utilize all of the tourism missions that we have around the world, in Atlanta and Washington, in Florida, and get them working to bring people here. Do you suppose we got that working this time? Come on, talk to me. I'm opening the lines for you. 325-023546. 325-0242 or 43. 325-0252 or 53. And let's talk about the Bahamas Junkanoo Carnival, because I think it is only right for us to conclude at this juncture that what it is that we think we should conclude. But the Prime Minister saying it was a smashing success and the $9 million was well spent tells me that all the monies were spent on this carnival. And maybe they did spend all, but what did they spend it on? And where did Paul Major get this bit about this conjecture of $17 million out of Grand Bahama for that carnival down there, which you saw on television, that they would have made $17 million to the GDP, and that in New Providence, they would make $50 to $60 million toward the GDP from this weekend past. Are you in agreement with that? Do you understand how that can be? Because I don't know anything about counting, to be honest with you. I tell people all the time, I can get to $1 million, but maybe $1.1 million. But when you talk about these numbers that these guys talk about, and they're accountants, so I can't argue with them. But I can tell you this, I know some people who can count. They're accountants too. And here's what one of my actuaries told me, one of my accountants, when we looked at what was placed on the table as conjecture, as forecast for what could happen toward the GDP, the gross domestic product, by Paul Major, the chief of the commission, who is an accountant and a very good one. Make no mistake about it. He ran a whole bank. He knows money. There's no question about it. But some people who are in the business feels that Paul would have been a little bit in fantasy land on these kinds of numbers that he's talking about, based upon the fact that we didn't get the tourists that we were looking for, the international people to come and spend monies. We didn't get that. We got an outpouring of natives who I salute and kiss because they supported this thing, and that was great. And we did get the cooperation. We did get the beautiful weather from our Lord, because we all prayed to God. All of us prayed to God for good weather. Some prayed for bad weather. But when you want to see something be successful and you want to make sure that whatever you can do to make it successful, you do. Everybody, even Paul Major, prayed that this event becomes a success. He kept his fingers crossed. I mean, let's look at that. That was phenomenal weather. Did you see the miracle? That's a successful story. Did anybody talk about that? No. They forgot God right after that. They got the good weather and they went partying, and they didn't even say thanks. Oh, you think that I'm off it? I'm telling you, this is what was a success. You had a miracle in the midst of all this madness of people getting ready to go and do the carnival, and they needed the good weather. Don't mind them, but they were to dance in the weather, in the rain. That ain't true. Bahamians scared of water. Come now. But they were there because the weather was fantastic. We got the weather, we got the blue skies, we got the sunshine, which was a contrast from the weather we'd been getting for the whole week. Come now, let us see it. We got the weather. But did we keep our side of the bargain? See, we needed the weather. And I prayed in particular, the weather happens good so that the vendors and the people, the local people, and we can make some money to turn this economy around, because we need it. But did we get the other side to do their part? Did the organizers come true with the good marketing and all that stuff? And outside of the hype and hoopla, did we get the essence of what the objectives were? If you want to call it a smashing success, let us look at it. But here's what my accountants tell me, and this is just from counting. This is just from counting, because we don't know the numbers who went to the carnival, who paid the gate fee, who paid $50, who paid $15, and all that, or who got in free by complimentary tickets. But what we do know is that in order, hear me now, in order to make $60 million, as Paul forecasted in New Providence, in order to get that, 500,000 people would have to spend $120,000 each. I think you missed that. Let me go back again. Based upon the conjecture, the numbers, the forecast by the accountant in chief, the man who knows money, Paul Major, in order to make $60 million in New Providence, as was forecasted this past week, 500,000 people would have to spend $120,000 each. In order to make $17 million in Freeport, as was forecasted and announced by Paul Major after the event in Grand Bahama, where they said they had 30,000 people. In order to make 17 million in Freeport, 100,000 people, 40,000 residents, and 60,000 tourists would have had to spend $170,000 each. $170,000 each. As for hotel occupancy, 60% is what the hotels looked like. Actually, at Sun, it was 55%. We checked that. 60%. Occupancy. They did bus, the committee did bus in. And busing in people these days is a very popular exercise. As we saw last week that some people were busing some people into the Rubas affair for the town hall meeting. But based upon the information that I've gotten here, Major and those said that they did bus people in from the hotel at Malia to see the carnival. Major said that those claims, first and foremost, the naysayers said that the event didn't attract the numbers of tourists needed to provide a major economic boost to the economy as hoped. This was in the Tribune today. So Major said that those claims were not true. They were busing tourists from east and west of the venue and continued doing so throughout the event. This is Major. They're busing in people. He said, however, that marketing for the next event will start as early as September. So they recognize some things. The marketing is flawed. We knew that all along. We all knew that. I mean, let's face it, they couldn't get a mega star. That's why they needed one. They said they couldn't get anything. We knew that from February, that they weren't going to get one. And so the marketing went on a downward trend because you couldn't market to sell tickets to people and don't know who's performing. So we understand that. So that was a failure. We always knew that. So the next step, obviously, was to get a crowd there. And they did get the crowd. There's no question. But as I told a friend this morning at Starbucks, if 15 people came into Starbucks and took up all the chairs, and one fella bought a cup of coffee, and another patron came inside that looked for somewhere to sit, and you ask, man, this place is full. The Starbucks says, well, no, but we only made $5 for that cup of latte. Well, you see all these people in there. What do you mean? They're not spending customers? They're not paying customers? So crowds, it means something. It depends on how you're looking at it. What's a success? What's a success? The crowd, it was a success. No question, that's that. But if you're looking at the essence of what we are doing, or the objectives that we had to meet, check it. In the Guardian of the Day leads story. this is quite interesting, because the truth is we now need to have the numbers so we can make a very, very informed statement based on information. And where the problem comments, even for Paul Major, for Roscoe Daines, for Mr. Ed Fields, and all those who did a good job in trying their best to pull it off under all the circumstances. They had a lot of challenges. There's no question about it. I know they had challenges. They never admitted to many of the challenges, but they had a lot of things seething under the surface. So I can't blame them for feeling good that they got the crowds. I really can't, honestly. But when you peel the banana and look at the essence of the whole matter, the Prime Minister is in error to say it was a smashing success. I will go on record as saying that today. Put me on record as saying that the Prime Minister was in error. He must have still been feeling good. That's all. The feel-good factor makes you say all kinds of things. Maybe they felt good that they even pulled off the doggone thing. There was a lot of controversy about this and a lot of mixed feelings about it. But, you know, Bahamians being who they are, supportive and fun-loving, they would support things because they want to see it succeed. All of us want to see things succeed in our country if we're doing it. We don't want failure, never want failure. But to just rest and say, but because we got a crowd, it was a smashing success, leaves one to really do some more deep thinking. So you're joining me on Hard Copy today, and I'm listening to you because it's your time to talk. Now, if this was a big success, don't feel shy. Get on the lines. Let's talk about it. 325-0235 or 6. After all, I'm sure you had a wonderful weekend. I had a good weekend, not only with Carnival, watching it on television and being down there for a bit. I couldn't stay for Bahama. I really couldn't. It took too late. It was just too long. I have to ask Isaiah Taylor how he felt about it. I hope he calls me today. There you go. The lines are now lighting up. Because you see, Isaiah Taylor and those, did they get a psychological shock? Because there are people who told me that Bahama didn't perform well. And I'm saying, you're missing it. That's what I told people. I said, man, look here. Bahama is a world-class Grammy Award-winning group. The songs that they put out, which is what you do at concerts, the new songs that are coming out, they didn't go too much into their old repertoire. They went into what is to come from Bahama. That's what I know. But there were people who say, oh, they didn't live up to the hype. The songs are too slow. And I suppose in a carnival type atmosphere, people want a lot of, I understand that. But to say that they weren't as good, I think that's going on some shaky grounds with me. But I could agree to disagree, and you could agree to disagree with me. But there's that statement that was made by Paul Major that tells me in his own mind he don't believe in them at all. In other words, you all making all this noise and the people didn't like your performance. Maybe that's why they sent a jitney to pick up Bahama and not a limousine. Hello? Can I get someone to deny that? You mean a jitney, like what is drive on a road? Yeah, a jitney. But what happened to the limousines that Montano them had? And the jitney, what they sent for Bahama, had no police escort, so they were very late getting there because the bus couldn't maneuver through the traffic. Structural execution. Remember we talking about that? The street festival, street fever, awesome. I'm not even talking about what people thought was immoral. I'm not getting into that. Because you saw what you saw. The pictures are there. I'm getting to something where does the whole country stop? Does the whole island stop for an event? Do we do it in such a way that it separates east from the west on a landmass 21/7 where people are still commuting to go to work and grocery shopping and other things that they have to do? Come now, let us reason together. I saw my friend the Potcake, and I know he's listening. He can tell me if I lie live on radio. I saw him driving up and down through my corner. Now, most of you don't know where I live. I live right on the fort, right on Fort Charlotte. right on Gibbs Lane, right down the street from the station. So I have great eyes on what was happening. I saw the pot cake driving in his blue utility car up and down, trying to get cross from the west to the east, trying to access Nassau Street. I saw some businessmen who I know and love driving up and down, trying to get from the west side to the east side and vice versa. Come now. Surely, if we're planning, we've got to be cognizant that the arteries, the main arteries, cannot be shut down from 10 to 9 p.m., from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. Let's be real now. We can only look at it from a critical eye so that we can get better. That's the idea. We're not trying to kill the people's carnival. I think the crowd was fantastic. But was it a smashing success? All of these little things, we've got to do the postmortem and to calculate, and everything is a major problem as far as I'm concerned. It's not a minor problem. Anything that didn't go right was major because it has a lot to do with the whole overall presentation and execution, not only on site, but on television. You think people tuned in to see my good friend and great orator, Ricardo Lightburn, who did a very good job, interview and talk with Leon from BTC all night long? No, they want to see the event, but they couldn't see the event because of poor execution of the stage. People ain't coming on one behind the other, that kind of a thing. But I don't want to be too critical. I only put that there so I can get you all upset so you can call me and row. That's what I want you to do today. I want you to tell me how you feel. Junket organizers, carnival people, all of the people, just call. Let's talk. It's now 5:44. Lines are full, so let's get our thing going. Was it a success, a smashing success to you, and why? And how do you determine what is success? Let's go to lines. Hard copy, how are you? Hi there. Hard copy, how are you?
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Oh, this is AD, man, Steve. This is my first call for the year.
AD, the great AD.
Yeah.
Hey, how are you, the great AD?
I'm great, man. I'm great.
Wonderful.
You know, I'm a nationalist. I was listening to you, and I have to go someplace. So I said, let me make my call easy. First, what was the sort of disturbance to me was the traffic jam.
Yeah.
That's my main issue that I have.
Right.
I needed to get, I live in the Boyd subdivision.
Yes, I know.
I wanted to get east to Marquis Street to pick
Yeah,
up something.
it was impossible. You couldn't get there. I could tell you.
I was by COB and I went by road traffic.
Everywhere was blocked.
No, and this was about 4 something because earlier the family and I went further down by the custom place and we saw, and I thought the float was over. Around 4:30, I decided to go. And those two places I mentioned at COB and at road traffic, I couldn't get over. If I didn't have my car, I would have tried to persuade the police because I spoke to a constable. Why don't you stop the float just for 2 minutes and let
you get across the road?
See, the point is, had I known it'd been that bad at that late, I would have called the commissioner of police. See, I don't look at problem. I look at the solution.
Yeah.
One call to the road traffic head person or the commissioner of police was to allow. It was simple. Floats. I noticed that there were some time lapse between floats.
And you should be able to go across the road, right?
The police. And I am not only rowing. I want to make a recommendation on Nassau Street. There are 3 main areas that people can cross over. The first one, let me say, at road traffic. You have that, the street goes straight across. People can move from east to west. You move further north, you have the junction at COB. At COB and Poinciana Drive.
Right.
You could go straight across. The other one is Meadow Street. Now you can only travel west. The other streets, they don't have corresponding exit on the other side. But it would have been easy.
Further up Nassau Street, there's Infantry Road. There is Quarry Mission. There's also Gibbs Lane.
Yeah, but it has a little twist there. You had to either go, they could have arranged it. You had to go a little bit onto Nassau Street. I'm talking about flow that you could go straight over.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other ones, you'll either travel south or north. If I were police, I would have been willing to take the chance, I would have been reprimanded, is to stop the traffic between floats. I mean, stop the floats between the time lapse. and allow traffic to go through.
Yeah, well, that didn't happen. So people were driving around in circles on the east
Oh, no,
side and on the west side. And that to me, that's a major thing. But some people think it's a minor thing.
No, I believe just like what I mentioned, the police them should have been given the authority or had the wisdom to just between the floats to allow cars to flow. I was told to go down by the six leg.
To travel from Boyd Road west to the sixth leg to see if you can get around.
On my way there, I discovered.
Yeah, that was the Junkanoo route. That was the parade route.
Yeah, but traffic was too heavy, so it was a good thing. One of my daughters worked to Atlantic, and I called them, said, please stop at this place, and they were able to get it without paying the money. I said, I got it straight today. But and I hope that they don't have to move it from Nassau Street. But what I mentioned, they should be able to move the traffic in between floats.
I appreciate
Let me tell you, Steve, before I end this conversation, wisdom is something, wisdom and understanding. The book of Proverbs says, whatever you get, make sure you get wisdom and understanding. Every day, I recommend it to people. I ask for wisdom. That matter could have been solved by letting people through those different places I mentioned. And I'm saying this, that in future, they don't need to make this mountain out of this little mole. That's all they had to do.
Yeah.
Now, let me switch over success. I don't want to label it success. I was very impressed. I didn't go. I watched television. I was impressed by the crowd. The success of that will be maybe known later. This whole thing about nudity, what the family and I watched, I didn't see anything for the 3 or 4 hours. Now, I heard there were some other things. But see, our country, I don't know, we are sort of hypocritical. In somewhat tabloids, we have a certain level of pornography, nudity, I call it nudity, and nothing is said. So I don't know what to say. I want to end by saying, Steve, I call you Sir Steve because I think you should be knighted. You know what I believe? Nudity, profanity, and pornography had it going in place. We'll have to train ourselves and children, the young next generation, to learn to make the right decision all the time. On internet, what they are raising trouble about is exposed. I'm angry about that. If I had the power, I will have all that stuff offline. This pornography and all that.
Yeah.
But we have tolerated, we are so tolerant to pornography, profanity, and nudity. So I can only pray that
Par for the cause.
we should be able to make the proper choice. All day we have to make choices of good and evil. They're going side by side. And I pray, heavens, that all people in the next generation will learn to make the proper choice all the time.
I appreciate it.
I'd like to hear from you. I know I always tell them, look here, I didn't have time to talk to you. You are the next Bamsi. You are Bamsi.
Huh? You mean
the
fruits and stuff. Yeah, Bamsi. Yeah.
You must see Bamsi number one.
Yeah. I appreciate it.
We talked. I thought I had to call. I only call when
I understand.
When I'm troubled.
Yeah.
And I hope that the recommendation doesn't.
Yes, I made a note. It's good stuff. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So God bless you, man, your family, and peace. May this country enjoy peace.
Absolutely. The great AD. I appreciate your call, sir. Thank you very much. 3250216. Success by you, the people. What say you? Hard copy. How are you? Hi there. Hard copy. How are you? Lines lit up, but I hear nobody. Hard copy. How are you?
Hey, Steve, what's happening?
I'm listening. Molly.
Hey, what's going on, man?
You always have these varied colored lenses, so I'm interested in hearing from you today.
Steve, I would call it a success. When you go experiment with something, you're going to try it, and then it ended up falling in place. So to that part, it was successful, the concert part. The only thing what I think was a big, it was a cluster, was that the thing on Saturday.
What thing on Saturday?
The road marching.
Oh, the road fever, yeah.
Yeah, the road fever. If they were to confine that to a certain area, like how we do Junkanoo, just go on the front strip right there, Bay Street to West Bay Street, or you start from like the Eastern Parade, head back down to the Western Esplanade, Fish Fry and all that. That way this traffic flow would have, been working a little bit more sensible,
I see. So maybe they ought to change the route or do it around the stadium and have it in the confined area.
Change the route because you can't let it come down and come down the middle of the island where, people going about their business every day and the country still has to run.
I got you. Yeah, absolutely. So did we meet our objectives, you think?
To an extent. no, I would admit I went out there Friday night.
Mhm.
Matter of fact, I parked right by my family next door, the youth,
Mhm.
and I was like, I wonder if Steve out there. And the only problem I had was that I was a little disappointed with Bahama, and I was like, my God,
Mhm.
all that noise I made for them, and this is what they gonna do on stage. It's like they killed the whole mood of the thing.
Really?
Right, they just killed the whole mood, and then the DJ, I think Terrible D came and hyped the crowd back out. But
Mhm.
when that guy, what's his name now, Michelle or Marshall Montano,
Mhm.
and that guy was awesome, Steve.
Mhm. So I understand.
He was awesome. I don't want to sound like I flip flop or anything, but
No. The truth is the truth.
that guy was awesome, and it's disappointing because with Bahama and the hype and all that, especially one like me being so vocal and pushing them forward and saying Bahamians first and making sure Bahamians get it. It was a complete disappointment.
Okay, so let me get this from you now. You feel as if the Bahamians were not up to scratch to be at a headline of any Bahamas Junkanoo Carnival.
No, with Bahama, maybe Ronnie Butler might have been a better headliner for Friday night, but Bahama was a complete disappointment.
I see.
I was talking to some friends of mine today, and they told me they left after Bahama performed because it's so disappointing.
I see. Okay.
No?
All right. I appreciate your call. Thanks for your honesty. Thank you very much. Hard Copy, how are you? We're looking at the weekend that was, and we asked you, how successful was it to you, or was it successful at all? Was it a smashing success, as the Prime Minister said? What are your thoughts? Go ahead, sir. Oh. Hard Copy, how are you?
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Okay, he can't hear me. 325-023546. How was it for you? And as I said, I haven't heard anybody tell me yet about if we met our objectives. You remember what the objectives were, right? We're going to bring some people here, and we're going to put some heads in beds, and we're going to make some money to stimulate the economy. And that's a good idea. We should do that. We need to do that. That's a great thing to accomplish. Now, if we didn't accomplish it this year, fine. Let's say that. We don't know yet. But why we're talking about this is because those who are at the top of the game in this country has already said it was a smashing success and that we have spent the $9 million. It was $9 million well spent. Well, are you pleased that it was $9 million well spent? Because the last time I heard Paul Major was saying that he spent $6 million. Now, the next thing I'm hearing is that it was $9 million well spent from the Prime Minister. And he would know. He's Minister of Finance too. But he would know what is happening. What are your thoughts? You mean to tell me you can express yourself about that carnival that was so wonderfully crowded? Where's the crowd today? Still sleeping? Hard Copy, how are you?
Good afternoon, Mr. McKinney.
Yes, sir.
The only problem I think I have with the carnival is that Junkanoo was not front and center.
Junkanoo was not front and center.
Yes. And could you run those numbers back again about the 17 million and how many people would have to attend?
Yes, I shall. Okay? No problems. But what do you thought overall about the event? Are you there? Boy, a guy called me earlier and said that Bahamians are hypocritical. I live where the carnival was. And so, my front yard and side road and garden farm was packed with cars. People say, I said, man, go right ahead and park. Feel free, We're having a carnival. This is all Bahamian stuff. Let's go. But I hear people talking as they're going to and fro that they go into the carnival. They can get bus right up and things like that. And they didn't know what to expect. They were saying, a lot of them when they were going on the nights that they did go, or that they did parks through my street. And it was almost a feeling of hearing them talk about they're going, but they really have no high hopes because they know, but they going because they want to see. That was, and they were saying with all the profanity as Brother A.D. Boss talked about, all the expletives, they accentuated everything what they said with them cuss word. And, I thought that this is just a party crew. That's what it was, men and women. Or should I say young women and young men. So maybe we have a degree of hypocrisy to the point where we said it was a success. Obviously, the people enjoyed themselves from what I saw. There were smiling faces, people dancing. But the truth of the matter is that we missed the objective. We didn't make our mark. Yet Christie is saying it was a smashing success. Now, I'm sure that, like me, a lot of you are waiting for the actual numbers. We want to see the numbers. We want to hear Mr. Major come back and say the numbers to what it is really all about. But based on what you saw, and based on what I told you so far, and based upon what reporters can go out themselves and ascertain, it could not have been a success from the level of what we had hoped to bring into the country, because there was so much room in the inn. It was fun. It was pathetic. But we still give the team a salute, the Carnival people. We still give them a salute, because the fact that it came off was a big thing in itself. The fact that they eventually got some behemoths to be on stage was a good thing. Never mind that behemoths didn't feel that they made any money. Never mind the attitudes toward behemoths involved in this whole matter, that they really weren't worth it. Because that's what you get. Read the stories in the papers. You get that. That this really was somebody texted me and said this was a Caribbean carnival. And more than likely, instead of us getting the lobby for a Junkanoo carnival, this may be more of a carnival, period, without this whole foolishness about this Junkanoo thing. Maybe they'll eliminate that so that they could really get the essence, the Haitian bands and the Cuban bands and the Colombian bands. I didn't hear Marley complain about them. He enjoyed them more than he enjoyed Bahamian, I suppose. So you tell me. 325-023546, 325-024243, 325-025253. Don't be intimidated, man. Let's talk. Let's talk about it. Just express how you feel about it and what you got from it, and if you did your numbers yet, and what you're looking forward to hearing as a result of this smashing success. All right? Just call me, and we'll be happy. Hard Copy, how you doing?
Hey, Steve, how you doing?
Very good, thanks.
You know, I got to apologize. The Bahamian people may still be sleeping it off, and we haven't woken up yet to call Hard Copy. But, Steve, you know, it was, I want to give credit to the organizers. The Bahamian people did come out to support our country. And I'm sad that we didn't give the same applause when Bahamian did what they had to do versus the foreign guy. But we want him to feel welcome here, enjoy the beach, the sunset, and sea. It was a great concert, but it was a bad carnival because the carnivals in Brazil put this to shame. But this concert was off the chain. Now, Steve, here's the thing. If we had, 100,000, 101,000 people, how many were foreigners bringing in new American dollars? Secondly, that's only 1.5 million if it's $15 a ticket. So you spend how much?
9 million.
To get 1.5. Now, some of the people that was vendors out there, they did well, but a lot of them said they did poorly.
Yes.
And you would have hurt the other vendors that typically make money on the weekend to help these vendors. So we're looking at it. The Bahamians still have our jaw on the ground, and I am hoping that the Bahamians of all political persuasions are not standing there with their eyes wide shut. We're watching, Steve, and remember, you're the watchdog for the people.
I appreciate it.
Have a good show.
Thank you very much. Yeah, well, I ask you, I'm very fair. One thing that you can say that Hard Copy is going to be very fair and balanced, and we're open-minded, and we entertain all and sundry. So there's no reason why Paul made a call to me after the Grand Bahama event. He was feeling pretty chipper, Paul Major. He can make a call to me today. I'll save a line for him if he wants to make a call today about what it is that they thought that they accomplished. Because these numbers that Paul Major put out there kind of sounds like fantasy, to people who could count. To me, I can't count, so, he could tell me anything. And I'm hoping that he doesn't tell you anything and you just fall for it. But to project $50 million for this weekend pass, and we only had Bahamians there, let me just show you something. Let me just show you this quick thing. If, in fact, we are to make $50 to $60 million with what we saw in these large crowds that Christie says was a smashing success, this would mean that we really did not need a carnival, because if Bahamians could put $50 million in the economy from attending the weekend carnival by buying food and drink and costumes, then it means that we have the potential and we have the means to stimulate our own economy, because really, it's our money that we spent, because there were no foreigners. A couple of foreigners, you can't even count them, far below a real good percentage, who attended the carnival. So if, in other words, if we make $50 million or $60 million from this past week to go toward the GDP, then it means that that's our money that we spend. So Nathan spend money with Irvin spend the money with me. So that's three behemoths who spend money and the money's changed hands. Hello? But we made 50 million. So you mean we had 50 million circulating in the economy all that time, 50 to 60 million? Or is there something else that no one is saying and they're afraid to touch on? Well, you give me this week and I will touch on it. And they know what I'm talking about. I will touch on it. But you know, I'm fair. So let me hear what the numbers would be. Let me hear what the numbers would be. And then we will get to it. Now, I think they tell me Paul Major's on the line, but let me get these other calls. Paul, just hang tight. Don't move. I'm going to get to you. Hard copy, how are you? Hi there. Hard copy, how are you?
Steve, how you doing?
Very good, thanks.
Wonderful show. Steve, I just want to come from a different angle.
Mm-hmm.
I watch quite a bit of it, the whole event. I think it was a success.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you why.
Okay.
I want to touch first on the street march.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been in culture for over 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
And let me say this to you, which is the difference between Trinidad and Brazil Carnival. I think it's a lesson for us to learn. I think next time they're going to get it right. But those street marches that you see in Trinidad and Brazil, if no one has told you, those groups come from constituency and district in Brazil and in Trinidad.
Okay.
It's similar to how you have the Saxons, the Valley, and the Makers from their constituency. Those groups come out in their costumes.
I see.
Okay, that's a big difference. That means there's a bigger crowd. If we did harder with that street march, those costumes were in
different areas.
Where those persons from each constituency brought their rival groups on that street march, they would still be in marching now. That's how it's done in Brazil and in Trinidad.
But what about using the main arteries of the streets, the main thoroughfares? I mean, at a cost.
JFK, for instance, the Bay Street from Montague goes straight down to where the venue and everything was set up.
So it should have been the one on one side of
Montague, from the Montague Fort. That could have been a good run. Or if they came from directly from west, from where the Obama is, if they came from that way straight down to the where the whole setup was, that would have been a good move. And Steve, I want to make another point, economic point, from a tourism perspective. Number one, Cuba really don't have to do no advertisement right now with the deal that's going on with the United States and them to get airlift to come to Cuba. They are going to be the biggest competition. Everyone in the Caribbean, whether we believe it or not.
Okay.
And when you see they get those hotels room up and running, the investors that is coming in there, I'm reading the New York Times and reading the Miami Herald.
Yeah.
They are multi-millionaires ready to go in Cuba.
Absolutely.
So I think the government is on the right track to bring in some other activity that could boost the economy.
I agree with that.
And Steve, most things when you do the first time, you don't get it 100% right.
No,
but I think overall, from my perspective, it was a success. Regardless of how much money that was made, it was a success. And I think next time, they know the hiccups where they need to get it correct.
Right.
But all is in this together. If the Bahamas fail, all is fail. If we succeed, all is
absolutely.
succeed.
But they're only going to get it, brother. They're only going to get it. I appreciate what you're saying, but they're only going to get it. Everybody's only going to get it if we be right up front succinctly that, you know, we see where the problems are. There's going to be a post-game analysis and then we say right up front, these are the things that went wrong. We've got to change all of this. We've got to reorganize. Yes, and that's why.
I think in the coming days or weeks, we expect that.
Well, that's
overall for the first time, McKinney. I mean, to be frank, what I saw, I think it was wonderful for the first time.
Okay.
I saw a lot of Bahamians happy supporting it, and I think the second time around, like anyone know, it's going to be better. Let's all work together to get this thing done, because there's too much other countries in the Caribbean that are competing for the tourist dollar, and we got to try to stay on the cutting edge.
Well, that's why it's important to get it right. I appreciate what you're saying, and you're not wrong. I support that, and we all support the idea of getting things done properly and attracting and meeting our objective. That's why I asked the question. You see, my thing today would have been, you just tell me what you thought, and let's have a good time and wrap it up and party, and then let's decide what we're going to do. But you see, there are headlines that said it was a smashing success. And I'm saying today, if the crowds are what we determine to be success, then let us say that. But if you're looking at meeting the objectives of what we plan to do, then can we truly say, in the words of Prime Minister Christie, that it was a smashing success and the $9 million was well spent? Now, we all see indicators that this is a great idea. Some things must be tweaked, there's no question. I'm sure the organizers see that. But you see, when we talk about just carelessly casting things aside and not looking at it, we've got to really look at it, analyze it, put it into being Bahamian public, and you get a chance to say, you are important. What you have to say today on Hard Copy is very important. That's why I put it there. What you have to say is that important so that we can get an understanding and various views about what took place on the past weekend. Let's go to this line. Hard Copy, how are you? Good afternoon.
That's you, Steve?
That's this you, Paul?
Yes, sir.
One, I want to talk with you. Mr. Chairman, it was a smashing success?
I certainly think so, Steve. And I heard you reciting what our objectives were a while ago.
Yes.
Should I recite them as to what my mandate was?
You can tell us, put us on page. If we're off page, that's why I tell you to call.
Okay.
Go ahead, Paul.
The mandate that I was given by an honorable Prime Minister was to put on a successful carnival at the time, which then became Jonkaroo Carnival. The second thing was to stimulate the cultural industry. And the third one was to create economic activity through sustainable small and medium-sized businesses. They were my three mandates.
You accomplished them?
Yes. Now, let's talk about them.
Sure.
I have been the one who's been advocating against the odds.
Sure, go ahead. I'm listening. You advocated against the odds. Go ahead.
Yeah, for us to get tourists here so that we could have the greatest economic benefit from what it was we were doing. Everyone else was telling me, forget the tourists. We need to get buy-in from the Bahamians.
No. Ain't nobody tell you forget no tourists.
Well, I'm telling you what some of the people told me.
Okay, all right. Well, let me not change your story. You go ahead. You tell me. I'm listening.
Yeah, so I mean, that's what I was told.
Okay.
Clearly, we got Bahamian buy-in. And clearly, we've now stood up a successful carnival. Barbadians and Trinidadians.
Who's this person?
They said that they were very impressed with our first effort. And it took some of them 10, 15, 20, 30 years to get to where we got to in year one. So in that respect, one, getting Bahamian buy-in, very successful. Two, in terms of creating a platform for us to relaunch our cultural prowess, I think we were very successful.
Okay.
As far as the tourists that were here, because remember now, we had a lot of bumps we hit that didn't allow us to do the required international marketing.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
Et cetera. January, February, we didn't have a
yes,
headliner.
No, I said that. I mean, I'd be fair. That's correct.
Yeah, so let me just finish. So we didn't get the lift we would have liked to have gotten from as many tourists as we would have liked, but we understand why. And under different circumstances, I am sure we will have more, particularly now that we've had a successful inaugural carnival. Okay,
so your idea of success is that you met some of the objectives and you couldn't meet certain of them because of the realities of the bumps in the road that you experienced.
Right.
And so you didn't get that kind of tourist that you wanted.
For the tourists that were here, and we always got 25,000 tourists and crew out there on the cruise ships on every weekend. And we always got X number of tourists in the hotels. There were a lot of tourists that came here, both from the Caribbean and from North America for this carnival.
Okay, what kind of numbers you put on it?
3 months to advertise. And on Wendell Jones' show this morning, because I haven't gotten the numbers yet, but I will get them from the taxi union, and I will get them from the hotels.
Yeah, we need them. Yeah.
And within 21 days, I'm going to come to the press with my facts.
21 days. Now, the last time, Paul, you promised that you was going to come to me with the press with your numbers from Grand Bahama. You didn't come.
Well, no, I didn't come, but I published them.
Well, I
had the numbers 7 days after the event.
But did you publish them 7 days after the event? Were they published 7 days after the event?
Well, the Tribune had them. They carried them.
7 days after the event.
7 days after the event.
Not last week.
That's what I promised, and that's what I delivered.
Not last week.
Including.
Not last week. 7 days after the event.
7 days after the 18th of April, I had published my numbers. I'll send them to you in email tomorrow.
Okay.
Which estimated my GDP impact for what happened in
for 17 million.
Finish my story on the tourists. The tourists that were here, and again, there were a lot of tourists here from the diaspora.
that came from North America and from the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know why somebody would only count what they regard as, European tourists as opposed to tourists.
They're looking at Calais.
Here. And Haitian tourists here.
They was looking at Calais, Paul.
Yeah, well, I don't want to say that you said that, but I talk at nationality and that origin. But the point I'm making is a taxi driver called this morning and said, I don't know what everybody else talking about tourists. He said, but my bus was riding full from Thursday to Saturday from Paradise Island, the cruise ship port, and out west.
So the taxi drivers made a good killing. I hope they call me today and tell me the same thing.
Sorry?
The taxi drivers, based upon what that gentleman called about, obviously made a good killing. They made some money.
He said, Stephen, I don't talk about what I think and what I say. This is what he said this morning, but I will get the numbers because we went through the taxi union. We thought about getting our own buses. They raised the red flag. We said, oh, fine. Let's go to taxi union. Let them provide the buses. So they can now canvass their members and tell us what happened. So I will come back to the Bahamian public with the facts.
So, Paul, you were satisfied then that based upon your conjecture, based on your forecast of 17 million in Grand Bahama toward the GDP and 50 to 60 million in your province.
Number, you call that number, so you got the numbers.
No, I got that numbers from reading the press report that I saw last week. That's what I'm saying.
I gave it out. Yes,
I never got it as you promised me. I have the whole sound bite with you telling me this. In fact, I have it to play today, but since you called me, I may not play it, but I have the whole thing here where you said that you'll give it to me in 7 days. I don't you have that, Mr. Producer? Yeah, we have that. But the point what I'm making is this, that at the end of the day, you believe it was a smashing success yourself because of the fact that we did get crowds, we did pull it off, which is true, we did pull it off, and there were odds and there were many challenges, as I said, and I know that there were. I said earlier on this show, there was a lot of things seething under an area that we never talked about, and I didn't say anything, but I also knew that there was a lot of controversy. I know there were problems, and there were challenges, but Paul, I'm saying this, that at the end of the day, the biggest mandate that we talk about is to meet the objectives overall as to how we're going to stimulate the economy. And I'm saying and suggesting to you, because you're an accountant, I'm not, but the people that we had here for the most part, while you said there were some tourists, let's give you a number, say 25,000 tourists were there. I mean, let's just say that. What kind of monies are we talking about when we're looking in actuality now, based upon what you saw, based upon what happened on the past weekend? Are you still in a position to believe, or are you still of the opinion that we're looking at a $50 to the $60 million move toward the GDP from this event past weekend?
Likely, maybe even more, Steve. But let's talk about the theory.
Maybe even more
numbers now, because I'm not going to have the real numbers for, like I said,
for 21 days.
Now 21 days.
Okay.
In the meantime, see, GDP doesn't discriminate or distinguish between local spending versus foreign spending.
This I know.
Look at the definition. The GDP is the sum total of all services and products.
Yes, this I know.
Produced in a prescribed period.
Yes.
So we're saying that over the 3-day period between Thursday and Saturday. Well, no, I gotta go back.
Thursday, Friday, and
$1
Saturday.
million over a 15-month period.
How much?
$9 million.
Oh, well, 15-month period.
In Nassau, or for the Nassau Carnival. Right? Now, that's what we spent to stand at the carnival. Now, there would have been all kinds of money spent on bus fares, on hotel rooms, on airline tickets, on people importing product to sell at the carnival. We must take all those things into consideration to come up with what the spend was. Because remember, it is a calculation of the goods and services provided in a prescribed period.
But what about the idea that while people spend...
Let me finish, because it's important that the public understands when we start talking about this impact. We ain't talking no P&L, and I hear you slipping in, make money. Ain't nothing to do with that. That's a financial accounting exercise. This was never about that. This was about economic stimulus, which has to do with how do you stimulate economic activity in the economy, which means creating jobs, standing up companies, which we definitely did. All those groups you saw there on that parade, each one of them represented a company, Steve, with a business license, with employees, with a VAT registration number. They all paid salaries, they all paid rent, they all bought material. These things are what represent economic stimulus, Steve. And we're going to be adding that over the next 21 days and coming back to the public and say what it represented.
Okay.
So that's how we measure these things. It's nothing to do with P&L. I would never sign up to make, because this is what I do for a living. I help companies make a profit. This has nothing to do with that. If Mr. Christie came to me and say, Paul, I'd like for you to spend $9 million, bring me back 15, I would tell him it's impossible. How are you going to do that? In Trinidad, they spend $64 million a year on Carnival. The government don't get nothing back. They will not directly, but they get it indirectly through taxes, through VAT.
They get the economy stimulated.
Precisely, it creates economic activity. The hotels get full. People come and buy all the roti, all the food. The airlines pay their taxes. The cruise ship pay their taxes. That's how the government get their money. So through the velocity of the money through the economy. So, I really think we need to educate the public on what these objectives are, and it's nothing to do with P&L.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear what you're saying, okay? Can I say something now?
Sure,
Because I don't want to cost you a train of thought to go. When you talk about this whole thing about the stimulus to the economy and the taxes that the ships pay and all that, we have ships coming here all the time. They pay this all the time. It doesn't mean because you were having a carnival that made any difference. That's the first thing. The next thing is this, that when you look at airlines bringing in people traveling to and fro, that's an automatic part of the economy being stimulated. It's because people will have to travel here, there, and everywhere. But this particular carnival saw the port shut down, the actual port down there where the people bring stuff in, that was shut down and closed for the duration of this carnival, which tells me that a lot of things were stopped at one particular point.
That's not quite so, Steve.
Well, let me finish now, Paul. I let you finish. Let me finish. The other thing is this. You're looking at all the things that we spent. You're not talking about, when you talk about stimulating the economy and a lot of people coming in and buying things and people are buying a roti or a hamburger to sell, that kind of stuff. I understand you. I understand it clearly. But what about the people who are in charge of the carnival, like yourself and the others, who are spending monies? I want to understand it too. Who are spending monies that's leaving the country? All of that equipment that y'all brought in, all that stuff with the things about the generators and the people who came in to do that and all the stuff they had to set up, and that money takes flight and leaves the country. How does that balance out with what we're talking about with a conjecture of $50 to $60 million?
That's factored in, Steve. So of the $9 million, let's assume that $2 million of it was, exported out of the country for the import of goods and services.
Is that the actual numbers?
No, I don't know. I'm just saying, let's assume. I don't know what the number is. Maybe a million, maybe, I don't know. But I will know within 21 days exactly what the numbers are. But I'm just saying, if it's $2 billion, then that number obviously is factored out because that doesn't circulate in the economy. And we did the same thing in Freeport. We knew how much was foreign import, so you got to extract that out. So we know what we're doing. And on the port issue, I really want to comment on that.
Sure, go ahead.
Between Ed and what the guy's name that runs the port, Mike Mora, I saw at least 20 to 30 emails where they organized that right to the T in terms of advising all of the persons of when they had to move their goods. We didn't close the thing down on Friday. We didn't close the thing down on Thursday. We only closed it down on Saturday between.
But there's a public notice of the same. I'm only going by what I read in the. I don't know for sure, but I only going by a public notice.
But that's the fact, Steve. We only closed that road down on Saturday, and the fellas got their goods moved before 11 o'clock.
I see. I put you on the record with that, Paul. We'll check that. But listen to this.
Yeah, well, let's put it this way. They want notice that the road would have been closed for export. The port would have been closed X period of time.
There was public notice. That's what I'm saying. Okay. The other point is this.
Around that, and people just, work later or, double up on, but they got their stuff. So that didn't hamper the economy.
Okay. I hear what you're saying, Paul Major. Let me ask you this question now. Very simple question about the structural part of a lot of the organization, as far as the road rage, not rage, the road fever. The road fever. These terms are new to me. The road fever. Could there have been a better plan as far as the road fever is concerned with separating New Providence, east and west, by using the main arteries for the actual carnival to participate, for the carnival march to happen, instead of another place like people talked about? A couple of callers said today that maybe Montague straight down to Cable Beach or Cable Beach straight up to Western Esplanade on one side of the island would have been a great idea, but that wasn't done. I mean, what was the reason for utilizing the main artery that got a lot of people angry? I don't know if you got feedback. A lot of people were trying to get to do other things on either side of the divide where the actual route was. Is there any plan to look at that? Is there any plan? Was there any reason why that happened that way? And what a public notice along the lines of road closures and road and traffic diversions?
Okay. Let me tell you the logic that went into the route. The original route was straight from the sports center up JFK, Nassau Street, and on to West Bay Street.
Mm-hmm.
The band leaders came to us and said two things. One, Commission, this route is too short. That the traditional carnival revelers who come here to go to carnival, they don't want no 1 hour, 1 hour and a half rush.
Mm-hmm.
They need 4 to 5 hours because that's what it takes everywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And they say they can believe they've been cheated. So they say we need a longer route, and what we'd really like to do is rush all the way out around the new highway, come out by as far up as Bahama, and rush up the foreshore. Well, that would have been too long. That's probably a 9-hour rush.
Yeah, but that might have been a better route.
But it may have been. And it was going to create a lot of traffic problems, according to the police. So we went back to them and said, well, listen, you know, we've got some objections to going all that long route and closing off all that amount of traffic. Because once the route starts, the whole route got to be blocked off.
Yeah, well, that's what we saw. I mean, and that was, to me, I thought that was crazy. I thought that should have been.
Well, it should have been a longer route that blocked off even more traffic.
Yeah, but I mean, if you had it on one side of the island on a straight run, it would not have had, prohibited people from traveling east and west in the interior.
Let me tell you the logic that happened. So we decided on starting at the sports center because you've got unlimited line of space there. We were hell-bent on not creating the same problem as we have in Junkanoo, where everybody down there by British Colonial Hilton trying to move cranes and 40-foot containers in that limited space. That's why you had the big gaps in the parade for Junkanoo. Now, we had 1 or 2 gaps, but it wasn't because of that. So we wanted to make sure that everybody could have gotten in one area where when we say go, everybody went. And for the most part, that occurred. We had one gap in the parade, but other than that, groups were pretty much right behind
each other. You plan to take a look at that, should you still be on this commission chairman? You plan to take a look at that parade route thing?
Yeah, so let me just finish. So we went back to him and said, well, we can make it longer. So we went off the back of the sports center, came up around onto that road that goes into Bethel Avenue to the 6 Ladies Highway, and then came up JFK. So we gave them more time. So we went from about 1.5 to 2 hours to about 4 hours in rush time. But we couldn't give them the scenic route. Now, for one, I definitely would support the scenic route because that gives us another dimension in terms of competitive advantage. Rushing along the shoreline. Could you imagine when you pass Go Slow Bend, all that nice cool breeze, and looking out there, the ships coming and going, the lighthouse and the Atlantic Ocean? That's an incredible view. So we are definitely looking at that for next year, where they can, because even coming from the east, you don't get that. You don't get as much view of the water other than when you pass in around Porter Ski area. But if we could give them this view, Goodman's Bay, Go Slow Bend, and all of that good stuff, my friend, that's an experience in itself. So, short answer, we are looking at the route, and we will definitely have some changes and improvements for next year.
I saw in the newspapers very, very quickly. Let me let you go because I got lots of calls on the line. But I saw in the newspapers this morning, glancing over it, where you were not so impressed. I got the impression that you were not so impressed with Bahama, even though you gave them a good complimentary remark, saying that they're good, but they didn't bring the flavor and the fever to a pitch where it was at a carnival level, I suppose you were saying. And then I gleaned from that you weren't too impressed with the fact that Bahamians could headline this thing anyhow.
No, Steve, I think that's a misquote.
Okay, well, speak to me. I have it it's a misquote in the papers because I have it here somewhere.
I saw that in the papers, and I certainly never had such an interview.
Oh, you never said that?
No,
That's...
Let me tell you where I am on Bahama.
Oh, okay, so this is a misquote in the papers. My goodness.
I don't remember seeing that. I don't remember having such a discussion with anybody.
Yeah, it's right here. Let me read it to you. Want me to read it to you?
Yes.
It goes from here. This is on page of the Nassau Guardian. This is on the continuation. It says, I'm getting to it. I'm glad that we experienced this. Okay. I'm trying to find the part with, okay, here you go. He says, Major noted the crowd showed more support to Montano than Bahamen, who also performed on Friday night. They are great artists, he said, referring to Bahamen.
Oh, you know about today? I thought you said last week.
No, today's paper.
No. I did, so I could certainly explain what I...
Yeah, they sounded very good, but they didn't have the same impact for the kind of event we're having that Michael Montano or someone else would have had. And yet someone else, you're talking about a kind of foreign act, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, go ahead.
Let me comment. First of all, Isaiah has been my lifelong friend. He and Tony Fisher I've been going to watch them play from the at the hotel over on Paradise Island. So, you know, and we're schoolmates.
Mm.
So me and Zaya are friends. Let me just say that right up front. I believed from day one that we needed a lead international act to come in here to bring in the first instance North American tourists, because that's our entrapment market.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we get our business from. And I figure if we can get a big name here, if they can see it where they are, they will come here to do it and play a little golf and gamble and everything at the same time. That was the first thought.
Well, how come tourism didn't see that?
Well, that's a different story. So anyway, me and you don't see eye to eye on everything. I don't see eye to eye with a lot of people sometimes, but that was my view.
You sound like a fellow who knows tourism. That you know what market you want, and that's why you want the mega artists. And I, from what I know, this was not supported, and I don't understand if that wasn't supported. Well, water under the bridge, Paul.
Let me finish my illustration.
Go on.
So that was my thinking then. Then when we realized that wasn't going to happen, we said, now we got to go to plan B. And the plan B was, again, to attract as many people as we can that are basically going to experience a Bahamian version of Carnival. So there was no better name than Marshall Montana, who was actually booked, and we had to go and make some serious negotiations to get him here. And we were very successful in doing that. Now, when the discussion came up about should Barman anchor, again, I know Isaiah's music. These guys are great musicians. They don't come better than Mo and Pat and Zaya and these guys. And they don't come better. The problem is that for this particular event, people came with a certain expectation, and that expectation was not met. And we knew that it wouldn't have been met, and you were going to end on a less than what you might call energized note. Great musicians, but you just got to know your audience. Some around with bringing Elton John,
and something like the Colombians and the Cubans and the Haitians.
Colombians got a very good response.
Yeah,
the Cubans got a tremendous response.
Better than Bahamian.
Yes, and again, we got to stop apologizing for that. We got to accept the reality of what we were trying to do. And, you know, one or two things have to happen. The Bahamian musicians have to realize that they've got to bring a vibe that appeals to the people, the tens of thousands of people that are going to come to these events. Now, you can have another event, more classical, more whatever, that will appeal to different audience. But for this particular audience, you've got to focus on relevance. And the crowd shows you their pleasure or displeasure.
Yeah.
So it ain't about me. It ain't about the commission. I think we read it right. I think we did the right thing. Thank God. Thank God. But we've got Bahamians like KB and Harvey and, you know, D-Mark that energized the crowd also. Could they have brought the international audience? Not yet. But they certainly could have kept the crowd alive until we got that big name active there to close the show out on a very, very high note where people didn't want to go home.
Let me ask you this. Let me butt in for a second again and ask you this question. This is a fundamental question. We in the Bahamas, we talked about it being a Bahamas Junkanoo Carnival. The minister and the government talking about this should be a Bahamian thing. It has a Bahamian flavor. I see what you're saying with the diversity, with the music and all that. I get that as far as the carnival atmosphere is concerned. To come as pretty much close to a carnival more so than what we were trying to do. Was there a conflicting kind of philosophy happening here? Because you wanted the Junkanoo thing on one hand to appease people, but what you're really trying to meet in your objectives would be more carnivalish to the point where it'll be attraction to the people who are coming in to see that level, that pitch of music and that pitch of energy. And so I'm asking now, Paul, based upon what you have seen and been able to assess from one day after this whole thing is over, this past weekend, if in fact the idea would be looked at again to perhaps go full rein about a carnival type thing, more so than this mix-up confusion about a Junkanoo Carnival that didn't really meet the objectives in a way that would have been an economic stimulus to the Bahamas and a tourist attractor to the Bahamas to make the kind of monies that I suppose people want to see in years to come.
Well, I don't agree with your conclusion that it didn't meet the objectives. I think it met all of the objectives, particularly when it comes to laying the foundation for the Bahamas now having a world-class event on a world calendar. I think we've now fixed our first week in May date that people are going to remember for generations to come. and they're going to want to flock to the Bahamas to be a part of our parade.
In May.
Which we can make. And as to whether or not there was any, I think you call it mixed, what do you call it? Mixed, any confusion.
Yeah, the mixed philosophy of, I mean, you know, on one hand, we know what Junkanoo is, and I saw the committee and people scrambling to try to fuse it in a way that they could diffuse any kind of controversy. But did it really work?
Well, I think it worked, Steve, and there was never any confusion in our mind. Our mandate was clear. I told you what they were up front. I think we did the best we could under the circumstances to meet that. And I think that even before the controversy kicked up, even while we were calling this thing Bahamas Carnival, there was a tremendous Junkanoo influence in virtually everything we did. Junkomania, the Road March, we even had Bahamians on every stage all day. Every Bahamian entertainer that wanted to work worked during this carnival. And I would hasten to say that there was more money spent on entertainers in the last 30 days than has happened in the history of the Bahamas.
Now, I want to see them numbers, Paul. You know, you promised me them numbers.
No, I challenge anybody.
21 days, I want to see what you're talking about.
No, take that from me, Steve. Take that from me. We hired every musician that wanted to work on all the stages between Nassau, Freeport, and Exuma. I know we spent the most money in a 30-day period in the history of the Bahamas, and I challenge anybody to bring forward a period that Bahamian musicians made more in a 30-day period.
Well, let me say this to you. I was very pleased with Saturday, and I said that at the front of the show, that I saw the Irish Stores, the D-Max, the Funky D, and the Ronnie Butler, man, and you know that lady who sings with the Spank Band. I don't have a name, but the lady who does the lead singing for the Spank Band, and she does all the backup singing. I think that they brought a level of excitement to the whole thing. I think that they were very, very top class, and I really appreciated Saturday evening. I really thought that Saturday evening was a wonderful production of what we can do, you know, but obviously missing were people like KB and Gino D, Veronica Bishop, people who have the flavor to get things moving, the experience.
Yes,
you must find a way.
You must
find a way to fix that.
I can't put a gun to their head.
Yeah, no, but you must find a way to fix that.
Yeah, but let me say something else though on that comment. I appreciate what you're saying. I totally agree. I thoroughly enjoyed them myself, and I had a great sense of Bahamian pride in their performances. But can you also say that you enjoyed the Cuban band? Didn't they add a good dimension? And is there any reason why we should be on stage with them?
Maybe because I've seen it a lot. You know, it didn't work that much for me, but I appreciated it. I thought it brought the diversity, some of it.
And the Cubans in Miami who want to see their top Cuban band, it worked for them.
Yeah.
So we got to put it all together, Steve, and capitalize on every little opportunity we can get.
Okay, let me ask you this final question. I know I keep saying this is the final question. I got people holding, right? But Paul, I've got to let you go. But about the vendors, the vendors don't seem to be a bunch of happy campers. They told me, I have a letter from the vendors, by the way, somewhere on my paper here, that they paid for some stuff and they were supposed to have gotten certain things from the committee. They were not happy. This one particular vendor by the name of S. Miller, I think it was. I'm sorry, V Miller, who said that they paid about $300 in fees for the stalls, or what you call the vendor's box or whatever. But they were supposed to have gotten certain things with them, and that didn't happen. They didn't make monies. They said making money is far and wide behind, that it just didn't happen. She sent me pictures that showed me the carnival site between the hours of 12 noon when it's supposed to start and 6 p.m. when it was there was nobody on the site. There's several different pictures. I'm just putting this question out to you, that maybe you could address it, because the vendors are also in the Tribune, I think, as well this morning, saying that they didn't have a good time as far as money making is all that. But perhaps you can speak to that issue.
Oh, I'd love to. Steve, let me tell you, I'm a realist. I try to be honest in whatever I say or do. I walked the full length and breadth of the cultural village. Ed spoke to every one of the vendors on the east and western extremity of the village. I spoke to a number of them on the eastern end of the village, and yes, unequivocally, I agree that they were disadvantaged. Now, the people in the center area by where the opening and the closing events were, they made out superbly well. And I ain't got to ask them about that because a lot of ran out of stuff. So I know that, and that's where a lot of the people were. Up on the eastern end, they made a good bit of business on Saturday. Judging stand was industrial end, so there was a lot of activity in and around there on Saturday. Saturday night again, it wasn't as bad because we had a DJ down there. But yes, I'm the first to admit they were disadvantaged. Ed Fields went and spoke to each one of them individually to make sure that they knew that we knew that they were disadvantaged. We had over 400 applications for stores. We whittled it down to 200, Steve. And if we read each one of them and say, well, now we want to reduce this to 125, I'm sorry, we got to cut you out. Those very vendors will tell us don't do that. So our challenge is, how do we get all these vendors in a sufficiently central place where they could all have equal opportunity to make money? And we plan to do that. So I accept that criticism, and we're certainly going to address it.
All right. Well, listen, I got to let you go, but I have a million questions and things that I can ask, but I don't have the time right now because I want to get everybody else in, and these lines have been blinking from that time, and I've spoken with you for a bit. But do promise me that we can talk perhaps at the end of the week or early next week and sit down, and you can tell me what you have been able to gather from your own critique of what has happened, what has gone wrong, so that if we're going to move forward, we're going to move forward in a way where everybody's on the same page. Since we've had success with crowds coming out, success with pulling off an event, success in meeting some of the objectives, as you said to me, as far as the stimulating the cultural identity, creating the economic impact, and of course, creating jobs and stuff and businesses, new businesses in the country.
Standing up for Carnival. That was the first one. Yeah. Standing up for successful Carnival.
A successful Carnival, right. You did say that. So I have those notes in made. And hopefully by next week we can talk. And maybe then, too, you can share some numbers and tell us exactly the direction things are going in. But to say, Paul Major.
Within 21 days, I promise.
To say, Paul Major, that it was a smashing success is a little bit wide and broad for me to accept. I must tell you that. Okay. But I do agree that you had good crowds out there. And I do agree that many Bahamians were out there. And I do agree that the Bahamians had a wonderful time on the street festival that I saw, the Street Fever, and as well as the stage performances, especially on Fort Charlotte. And the other night on the beach when Ira Store and those was the backup band. And Ira Store should be congratulated because I never saw a band could play all that music one behind one another for all these different artists just like that. And wasn't a flaw. It was a perfectly orchestrated Saturday night. It was better than the others. The stage movement on the other nights were not that impressive. Too long. Zen them sitting down there talking and interviewing people. People didn't want to see that. They wanted to see the action. But be that as it may, I thought it was still a very good production because we saw something, and we know that something happened. How smashing it was, Christy says it was a smashing success. And I know if Christy say that, Paul Major is also going to say that.
Well, I've used that adjective too, quite frankly. So I thought it was a tremendous success, Steve. Okay. And finally, I'd just like to say thanks to the Bahamian people that came out, whether it was for curiosity or confidence in the event. They gave the organizers of this thing and the government an opportunity to demonstrate that Bahamians could pull off a first-class event that rivals our competitors in the Caribbean region.
I appreciate it. Paul Major.
Have a good one. You're welcome, man.
Thank you. All the best. Okay. And of course, this is Hard Copy. I know I've got to run to break. Let me just see how my calls are lining up here because they've been holding for a bit. Hard Copy, how are you? Hi there. Gone. Hard Copy, how are you?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Good evening, Mr. McKinney. How are you doing?
Very good, thanks.
I just wanted to say thank you for taking my call. I was listening the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
I can appreciate what Mr. Major is saying, and based on the crowds, it clearly appears that it was a smashing success. Hello.
I'm listening to you.
Right, and I just want to say something on behalf of Bahamian. Now, again, understanding what Mr. Major said and everything he said, I understand and agree with to an extent. Marshall Montana is a better entertainer, and he is a single man on stage, which makes a big difference. And we may not have looked at it from this perspective, but Bahamian performance was great. Unfortunately, I called in on an earlier show and tried to make this point. The engineer did not do justice to Bahaman. And I from a very technical standpoint, that is crucial for a band of that size.
Okay.
Because why? The vocalists were never really heard clearly out front. It sounds like their vocals were suppressed coming from the on-stage monitors. The band can hear themselves, whatever, but the audience could not appreciate the clarity of the vocalists and even the music, especially when Zio took a bass solo. That bass sounded crappy.
Okay, I appreciate it. I hear what you're saying. I suppose when Ray Munnings, when Raphael Munnings, I thought did a very good job. Honestly, he and his son on the Bahamian night, and when he was saying, "Okay, let me hear the bass," I couldn't hear the bass from Irish Store. I don't know if that's the same setup, but I couldn't hear the bass. You know, the part of Funky Dance always say, "Listen to the drummer and then listen to the bassman." We couldn't hear it, so you may have some point. I don't know about the technical stuff, but I know it wouldn't make an impact if it didn't come off right. Hard copy, how are you?
Hello?
Yes, sir. How you doing?
Mr. McKinney, how you doing?
Very good, thanks.
Okay, that's good. I just wanted to call from a point of view of Bahaman. You know, a lot of persons are commenting on the other talk shows from Sense this morning. I totally enjoyed Bahaman. That's me personally.
Okay.
I don't think a lot of persons can appreciate the type of music that they sing. How Bahaman got their success was through, you know, Billboard, Nickelodeon, the white stations. They did a lot of throwback music with Dr. Off. They sung a few of the old ones. Few of them I did not recognize because it may have been new ones, you know?
Yeah, there were new ones that they did as well.
Right. But to say that their music wasn't on par, their performance wasn't on par, I think it's a disservice to say that. I totally enjoyed it. The persons that were around me enjoyed the music. Understood. Okay, and really, I don't think Bahamians really took the time to really understand Bahaman and their music. Really, I don't think they gave them a chance at least from the beginning. Yeah, that's my honest opinion. I totally enjoyed Bahaman. I appreciate it. Thank you kindly. Yeah. Well, you know, sometimes it could be a group that's superior, but in a fit where the crowd isn't into that. You understand what I'm saying? Bahaman is, in my mind, they're the best band in the world. You can't get me to ever go back against them because they are that great. They are great. They've proven it. I don't care what no one say. They're proving that. Now, you may have gone and saw them that evening. There were a lot of things that may have been a psychological impact to them. And I mentioned one of them with the transportation, the jitney. But be that as it may, you see, people don't know that when a boxer is getting ready to box, he has to be so psyched up. The smallest thing can throw it off. A musician, the same thing. You're so psyched up, the smallest thing can throw it off. You can get pissed off to the point where everything is out of whack. That's how it works. I mean, we're all human beings. But the thing about it is that sometimes you could be unequally yoked. There are many people who are married, they're unequally yoked. It just can't, it ain't no good fit. Bahaman may not have been a good fit in this aspect of a carnival. If people are expecting a carnival, and they expect to see a hype at a certain level and a jump up, move to the left, move, that kind of thing. And for them to come out with this good, classy, wonderful new music, might have been like, well, I didn't do that. I know that one. I can't sing with that. I want jump, man. That's the crowd that you attracted. There's a demographic of crowd. I mean, everybody, you know, this radio station attracts a particular demographic when it comes to the music on the station. 100 Jams attracts a different one. The other stations, Love, and they attract different demographics of people listening to the station. So when it comes to things like a Junkanoo Carnival, this carnival atmosphere thing, maybe that's where the unequal yoke is. And I never liked the fact that Bahaman was going to open for a Montano because they're two different genres of music altogether. See, now I know that from being involved in music. I can tell you that's a bad mix. That's like a DJ playing a song, and he just finished playing this nice song by Lionel Richie, and then he lick off something that you never heard in your life, and you can't figure it out, like a hard mental rock. It's like that. It's that bad.
And that's what the mix was, in my opinion. But, my opinion don't mean too much to too many people when it comes to that kind of stuff. The organizers knew what they were doing. They feel good about what they did. And obviously, there are people who feel that they may have accomplished it. The jury is still out. There's a lot of stuff that has to be done to satisfy the critical eyes of those who are relentless criticizers like me. Because I want to see, at the end of the day, what those numbers look like and what we really did accomplish, so we can know that we're going to move to a different level. Some things got to change. There's no question in my mind. Can't be business as usual. Some things will have to change going forward if this thing called Junkanoo Carnival is going to be viable, successful, and really impactful to both the local economy and the local vendors, as well as the people who are coming from overseas. It has to be. Some things have to be changed. Hard copy, how are you?
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Hey, Steve.
Hi.
I want to thank you for your little lane. That was a lifesaving trip to that corner. Right up the hill. Many people don't know what gives lane.
I can do whatever little I can do, I offer to you, my friend.
I know, because I see your little farm.
Yeah.
I park right close to that.
You wouldn't believe some people carry my plants, my flowers, but I'm making no noise. I mean, I figured that it was Mother's Day, so I had a lot of pretty roses there. Well, they had some flowers to give to Mother's Day.
Probably. Anyhow, Steve, I'm going to give the Visage band. I think they played when? Friday night?
Yes, Visage was on Friday.
That's a top class band.
Yeah, I enjoyed Visage too. Come to think of it, which night was that? Wasn't Saturday night.
Friday
night.
Yeah, they played one night.
Yeah.
Then Tony Montana played here with married to Garland. The people went crazy.
Bahamian Song by D-Mac.
No, but Tony Montana played that.
No, I'm saying, it's a Bahamian Song by the original Exuma the Obeah Man, and then recently D-Mac did a make of that. Yeah.
Tony Montana said he was in love with a Bahamian girl. And that song lick off. And the crowd went crazy.
Yeah.
And he came with entourage. He had 3 male dancers and 5 female dancers. So he had eye candy.
Yeah.
And that was called entertainment.
Yeah, okay, fine.
I'm saying that's what the people like. Because, people go there to find, they watch the girls dance, do their thing. And then he had a hype man too.
Yeah.
So keep the crowd hype.
Well, he's an experienced guy with these things.
Kind of shocked. When Bahamas, man, people tried to leave. I said, oh no, this can't be. But they stayed just to watch him.
Yeah.
That's 5 o'clock.
I see. Yeah, he came on like 3:30 something, eh?
Yeah, close to like 4 o'clock.
Wow. My Lord.
But he hyped up the crowd, hype. But see, when you are going tour, you have to come in entourage.
Yeah.
And you have to practice what you're gonna do. You're gonna work with your dancers.
So you're saying that Zaya and Bahamian did not live up to the hype?
No. It wasn't that type of crowd. It wasn't like watching a band. You come to get hype.
I understand. Okay.
Get hype up and dance with remember, flip.
Okay, so next time when the carnival comes around,
they have some
hold on a second.
With them.
I'm saying,
and they entertain with the girls.
Next time when they come around, when the carnival comes around next time, you think we should really be fooling around with Junkanoo Carnival, or we should just call it Carnival and all the hype people who want to see the people jump up?
No, Junkanoo still go with it, because some famous songs still hyped. I mean, some of the famous songs still don't come over.
Okay, so
we have learned this. Hype it up, hype.
I see. Okay, I appreciate your call. Yeah, so what he's telling me, the creme de la creme would have been the hype and the kind of Montano style. Hard copy, how are you? Hi there. All right. Yes, turn off your radio. Go ahead.
Steve, how you doing?
Sure, good. All is well.
Fantastic. Steve, I was listening to Mr. Major.
Uh-huh.
And I was actually listening to you yesterday on The Last Word.
Yes.
I was listening to some of the criticisms and whatnot. I'm listening to some of the objectives, some of the ideas associated with what we should do. I just wanted to say 1 or 2 things to Mr. Major. You indicated, or you mentioned earlier, that your demographic is a particular audience. You have a particular type of people that you're speaking to. You really get educated persons who listen to you because you're well thought out and everything's laid out front of you, and you put all the facts on the table. Mr. Major is talking foolishness. I just wanted to put that out there. Not disrespectful. We respect him in his position and his capacity. However, we know that we paid $9 million
So they say we paid $9 million for this carnival. Then we had to come to the carnival after we paid for it to get it. And then when we got in there, the fact of the matter is that we did not stimulate anything in the economy. We just didn't. We didn't make the money that we expected from a wide range. And take into consideration also the money that vendors lost. Personally, we had to close on Saturday. I have a little business, and we had to close on Saturday because no one came, and we didn't make anything at all on Saturday. I went over to buy something for my wife and my mother over at the John Bull, and I looked around. I said, "What happened?" They said, "Well, ain't nobody coming today." So I'm saying, what
Carnival was a town.
Economy, the expectation for this particular time of the year for us to be able to make some money, what did we take away from the economy? And desires or aspirations to be able to do something for this concentrated thing for 3 days. So I don't know whether or not they were thinking from a wider span, just to say, okay, we're going to make this Junkanoo Carnival thing go away, make this Junkanoo Carnival thing happen, and forget about everybody else.
Well, that's probably what happened, because the focus seemed to have been on making sure that people come, making sure this road fever is successful, making sure we get the crowds, and the concentration was so focused on that, maybe everything else just fell away. That's why I asked the question earlier about, did they execute? Did they get all the nuts and bolts fixed? Did they bring the impact? Did they do the structural fixings that they needed to have? Because that road fever thing left a lot to be desired from a structural point of view, not from the participants, or I'm not even discussing the moral part of it. I'm just looking at the nuisance and the disadvantage of other motorists and other people using the streets, wanting to get to the west side or wanting to get to the east side, and just simply couldn't. They just simply couldn't during the duration of that time. And so you have to look at that. And that's what I'm saying. A lot of things are there that we can look at and say, this was not a smashing success. But people tend to use these terms very loosely. Smashing success, and that would mean that everything was perfect as far as I'm concerned. That's my views of what is a smashing success.
I'd say that it was a smashing success if you look at the root word and some of the foundational words of what the carnival is. It's only a festivity of carnality. I mean, not to be able to indicate that, we're even talking about the moral aspect. I don't want to play devil advocate, and we are definitely moving full speed ahead when it comes to our political season. And the fact of the matter is that it was strategic. The time it.
Go ahead. You must have run out of minutes. I suppose he's going to say it's strategic the time this carnival was happening, because this was also the third anniversary of the Progressive Liberal Party in office. And some people have tried to equate it with the same thing, that the carnival was happening on their anniversary date. And so it was a big party. I don't know. I mean, they didn't have too many other things happening from a party structure. The prayer breakfast like they normally have, the church service. If they had it, it was a secret. I didn't hear about it. But they were basically in the mood of carnival. And a lot of people are saying they hope the vendors made money. I got a letter from a vendor I should read with you if we have the time right now. Let me just take these calls before the break. Hard copy, how are you?
Good afternoon, Mr. Virginia. How you doing?
Very good, sir.
Yes. My observation of the whole thing, I was out there. It was a successful party. That's it. Economic-wise, I don't think the money was made. I don't care how crafty Mr. Major does try to be, and how do they try to fix the numbers and change and lower the expectations every couple of days. The vendors didn't make their money. On Friday night, when the big stage came on, nobody went on the other side. The other side was dry.
Okay.
No one was there. Everyone was to the main stage, because that's where all the event was. The whole setup, in my opinion, was flawed. I don't think that road should have been open. They should have made the space more compact. That, hey, if you're on the main stage, you have access to go over there to get food and buy the wares and stuff. But it wasn't like that. Once the lights and cameras was on that side,
that's where everybody went.
That's where everyone went. Nobody went over to that side. So I don't know what Mr. Major is talking about. Secondly, when you're talking about the economic impact on what happened, you have to say how many tourists came, because I didn't see much tourists out there. I see a lot of natives there. How many money the carnival band spent, how much they made. I don't think they made good, because up to the day of the event, they had the the costumes for Rotary were slashed in half. They were giving out all this stuff to try to get it, and some persons sponsored and purchased costumes and gave money to those groups to buy costumes to donate, so persons could get costumes. Now, another thing, they should take John Canoe that because John Canoe was put on the back burner, Mr. McKinney. I felt ashamed as a John Canoe. John Canoe was put on the back burner. You were out there all night. They said we were going to do it at 1 p.m. The first night we went, like shortly after 1. Friday night, we didn't went at all because the concert didn't open until 5. I think John Canoe was put on the back burner. I don't know how they're going to make it up to the John Canoe because you spend $9 billion plus. With Carnival, you hate to invest in John Canoe and trying to promote the culture. The same festival activity they can have there, they can do that in the Christmas and have a 2 or 3 days in between the parades to hype it up and to set it to get people there. As relates to Bahamian, to me, I'm a fan of Bahamian. Bahamian did a good job, but the problem was that people were looking for that jump up, and Bahamian did a lot of remake on some of the songs from the Western song. People were looking for a different flair. That is not to say that Bahamian failed. Bahamian do.
Understood.
It's just trying to fit it into all the jump up and the stuff that the people want because they were good. And I'll let's hang up with that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for your input. Final call. How you doing?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
I can hear you, Sparky.
Oh, sorry. Good evening, Steve. How you doing?
Peace and love.
No, I didn't even really hear the guy finish. But Steve, I would like to compliment and congratulate all of those people that were really involved, and I think they most of those really tried their best to pull it off despite all the problems that we had before this thing even started. I think the entertainers tried their utmost best. I think the people, even in the road march, or what do they call the road march?
The road fever.
Road fever. I think everybody tried to show that they were trying to just say, just let it loose and have a good time. I think the vendors tried their best to make $1 or this and that and the next. And I would like to compliment the Bahamian people for trying their best to pull off a good show. But Steve, I tell you the truth, and I think the last time you heard from me, the most thing that disturbed me, Steve, in this whole event was when I heard certain religious leaders praying for rain and hoping for the whole thing to fail. That all the people that prayed for this to fail, what upset me the most, Steve, because even if it failed as far as heads and beds and tourists and money but derived from the investment of what the figure was $9 million. I think we gave it a good try for the first time. And I am very despondent, Steve, and I'll tell you that on the radio and if I see you face to face. Those religious leaders that came publicly and prayed for rain to wash the whole event out, Steve, I have nothing but disrespect for them, and I don't think I can ever respect them again in my lifetime. Have a good day.
Yeah. Well, not everybody's finished partying from the carnival, as you can tell. Oh, boy. Anyway, I've got lots of things that I read. Can we take a break and pay a bill and then come back and give you an extra 15 minutes? Because I've got a lot of stuff here because of the telephone calls and the text messages. I want to share this with you today so we can move on to some other business of interest for this country that's urgently needed attention by tomorrow. So let's see if we can get away from this today by talking about it. Let's run to the break. And when we come back from the break, there's more. I've got lots of interesting text messages. You need to hear these ones. And a letter from the vendors to tell you what they thought. This is Hard Copy. We're coming back after these words, after the big party, 3 days in the streets. 3 days, not in the streets, but 3 days in Nassau, having something called the Bahamas John Canoe Carnival that the Prime Minister's deemed a smashing success. My question is, can we call it a success because we saw the crowds? How do you determine what is a success? Big crowds or the actual impetus of meeting your objectives. Paul Major said they met their objectives. One of the objectives was not made, was to get the people inside town, the tourists, to spend money to really stimulate the economy. But the others, he said, were met. And we'll talk more about that later on in the week. This is Hard Copy. We're coming back.
This year, don't be caught singing the Christmas blues. Start saving now with your own B.O.B. Christmas Club account. Sign up before June 30th with just $20. Earn high interest and have guaranteed spending money in time for Christmas. Don't be left in a bind this year. Let B.O.B.'s Christmas Club account work for you. Sign up today at your nearest B.O.B. branch. B.O.B., your bank of solutions.
At Ron's Electric Motors, they repair and rewind all major brands of electric motors, including water pumps, generators and generators back end, welding machines, electric lifts, air compressors, battery chargers, and more. They're equipped to handle up to 850 kilowatts and rewind up to 450 horsepower motors. They're conveniently located on the corner of Wolf and Clarence Roads and are open weekdays 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., Saturdays till noon. They offer 24 hours emergency assistance. You can reach them at 242-356-0249.
At Henry F. Store Electric Company, we supply all your electrical needs for any size project, from residential housing to luxury hotels. We can help you achieve just the right look, from doorbells to chandeliers, table lamps to ceiling fans, wire, conduit, panels, dimmers, switches, plugs, and even tools. And don't forget light bulbs. We have those hard-to-find, energy-saving fluorescent bulbs and more. Henry F. Store Electric, number 135 Matthew Street. Over 50 years of reliability, service, and low prices. We also ship to the Family Islands.
When Steve talks, people listen. People listen. People listen.
Welcome back, Hard Copy on a Monday, and we got an extra few minutes just to talk about some of the other areas. I still maintain that organizers of the Bahamas Jungle Carnival and politicians, I like to say the weekend party, was a smashing success. But what defines success? Certainly not just large crowds. Certainly not. Certainly not just Bahamians smiling and having a good time. Did we spend some money? Did we make some money? Did the vendors make some money? Did the junkanooers who made the costumes, did they make some money? Did they sell the costumes online? Did they get what they were looking for along those lines? You be the judge. Now, early we can say, well, don't seem so, but maybe the numbers will be better. Paul Major says the numbers may be better than his conjecture of 50 million to 60 million. Maybe we'd have done more to put monies toward the GDP in the country, but we also spent a lot of money. He minimizes it to about $2 million just by, wasn't sure, he just said maybe but $2 million. But that's a far cry from what we feel has happened. We're going to need the actual numbers, which the proof will be upon him to provide for us in 21 days, he says, which is a fair amount of time, I suppose. So for 21 days, we'll be here waiting to see exactly what they in fact did. That gives them time to put it together. But from where you sit, you feel good about what happened because we pulled something off. It was different, it was new, and we pulled something off, no question about it. But did we pull off what we were trying to pull off? Or did we pull off something anyhow? And in the absence of not knowing what to expect for many Bahamians, what we pulled off seemed to be pretty good, and we felt good about it. Okay, now let's run to the text line, and let me just read some of these that people sent me today. This one says, Steve, I did not attend the event, but I hope the vendors made their monies back. And I'm going to read some of what the vendors told me in a minute. This one said, hey, Steve, I thought the song My Island in the Sun was the best song over Sammy Starr. That's from the competition, I suppose. Sammy Starr won that thing with the showdown with the Music Masters. Sammy Starr is a young, upcoming, very talented young man. I liked his song, by the way. People tell me they didn't like it, but I liked his song. His song, to me, had a flair of Bahamian in it. I don't know if you picked that up. I can't remember what it was now, but when I was listening to it, I said, boy, they sound a little bit like Bahamian, the kind of stylings to it. And I also understand that there's word that they would have been signed up by Sony, Sammy Starr, that they would have, that Sony would have expressed an interest in trying to get them to do some feature recording. So if that's true, that's good. I haven't confirmed it, but that's what I heard. This one says, Steve, you are an intelligent man, but we don't want to see heads. We want to see figures. Well, the talk is heads and beds, meaning that when people come, they live in hotels. That brings money to the economy. That's what tourism means when they say heads and beds. This person says, we don't want to see heads. We want to see figures. And whose dumb idea was it to have fireworks at 3 a.m. in the morning where you and I live? Well, it sure woke me up because I was waiting on I was waiting on Bahab. I couldn't stay out there. I can tell you that now. I was watching for television. Television went off. I gone to sleep. Nothing happened. Then the fireworks came at 3 a.m, and I said, well, something big must be happening. But it just set off all the alarms in the area on my street. But that's a part of the thing. I didn't complain about it. This person says 500,000 and 120 equals 60 million. 120,000 that everybody would have to spend. This one says, that's 2 miracles this weekend, Steve. The relays and the carnival is still rainy, but the days of the events were sunny, which is a miracle. Yes, absolutely. And we ought to be thankful for it. I didn't hear anybody say thanks, but that goes without saying, I suppose. This one says, Steve, tell Mr. Major, I know numbers also. I know sea bass and flowers. Tell ZNS stop showing hologram crowds. Oh, that's loaded. Let me read that again. Steve, tell Major, Mr. Major, I know numbers also. I know sea bass. Oh, that's the bass. Oh, it says sea bass. Sebass, okay. Sebass, okay. And flowers. Okay, tell ZNS stop showing hologram crowds. This one says, Steve, liquor made the money. Liquor made the money. This one says, Steve, I watched the carnival parade. What I saw was exactly what I see on December 26th and January 1st each year. I looked for the negative that you saw. I saw family and people, Bahamians, and all enjoying themselves. I support the carnival. Can't wait for next year to be in my costume. Now, this person is totally incorrect to say they look for the negative that I saw. I never said I saw any negative. I said on this show today, and I never said I saw any negative. All I'm saying is that, do you see a crowd as successful? Because a crowd doesn't mean it's successful. And I've quantified that and qualified it. So to say that I looked for the negative that you saw, I don't know what that person is talking about. That person is obviously still perhaps pretty much, feeding the fun of carnival, I suppose. This one says here that, hi, Steve, the best thing about the weekend to me is that the beach at Goodman's Bay, which is usually filthy on Saturday morning after happy hour Friday, was absolutely clean. This one says, Steve, how much money do Bahamians spend in web shops? The money right here. So that's another hint. Somebody's trying to tell me something. What are they saying? The 50 million, the 60 million, so that money's right here? Steve, how much money do Bahamians spend in web shops? I don't know. The money right here. Does that mean that, because I said, if in fact we can spend $50 million based on Paul's conjecture numbers, if we can spend $50 million for the carnival from Bahamian people who were there predominantly the most, then it means that we don't need a stimulus for the economy because the monies are right here circulating from one Bahamian to the next. We got that kind of monies in our pockets to spend. Do you think? $50 to $60 million that we could spend a weekend? Really? Come on now. Let's don't be drunk today now. The drunken part over. Talk sense and think. This person says, hi, Steve, follow the man. Follow the man. Remember, we have some boys who trying to put some money in the bank. Woo-oo. So maybe when those millions present to the bank, they could say, we made it on the weekend of Carnival. Carnival was a number game. Ooh, my Lord, that's heavy. I'm scared to read that again. Hi, Steve. Follow the man. Who man he talking about? Paul? He says, remember, we have some boys who trying to put some money in the bank. So maybe when those millions present to the bank, they could say we made it on the weekend. Carnival was a numbers game. When I saw the street parade, that's what that person says. When I saw the street parade, I call it street parade. What's it called again? Road fever. When I saw that, I saw a number of trucks were plastered with banners from the numbers houses. I don't know if that meant that they were sponsors or what, or they were, I don't know. Because I don't know. I just didn't know. And I couldn't stop and ask them because the police, I tried to get across to go through Meeting Street to go on my assignment, but I couldn't. I had to stay there till one policeman saw me waiting there, and then he said, rush cross. And then when I reached the gate, the policeman who was at the gate was like, you can't go. And I say, man, the fella said go because the truck stopped, and I got through. They actually let me through on Saturday, which was good. And I appreciate that. And I want to thank them for it because I was there for a bit trying to get through, and I really had some place to go urgently. But, if I was to say that now, I say, Steve just mad. No, listen, man, we had a problem. That road fever was a problem. I don't care how much you like shaking up yourself. I don't care how much Bernadette Christie was on the parade. I don't care how much Allison Maynard Gibson was on the parade. I don't care how much Brave David's wife was on the parade. And they all looked beautiful to me. We had a problem with the structure of that. You get it? You cannot expect that you're going to shut down whole island because you have a carnival. There are people who have to still go to work. There are emergency vehicles. There was an ambulance, and people who were in the area can bear this out. An ambulance that couldn't get across had to go back through my corner all the way around. I hope they got to it on West Bay Street. An ambulance. Let's be real. Because the big trucks were on the road. But the nation still runs, you know. We don't stop because some people want to have fun. Anyway. Steve, I won't say a rousing success, but what I could say is that a great foundation has been laid. Can they maintain it? I think they've started something, and I believe that they can maintain it, but they need to do some tweaking. Like everything else, you don't get it on one go. But they got to be realistic and say, and take criticism, and listen to what people are saying. Okay? And don't give lip service to some things, and really analyze. Maybe if this thing was done from the beginning in a way where behemoths were totally involved, and we were totally accountable and not so snobbish and all that kind of stuff, it would have perhaps been better. I was happy to see, and I forgot to say this to Paul, I was happy to see Cookie Allens and Hope, that's her name, Hope, my girl, up there, the ones who do the Superwash commercial. I was happy to see them as members, as mistress of ceremonies on the night the Bahamians were on. Man, I enjoyed that. I might as well tell you, that got an A in my book. Why? Because I said to Paul and them all along, go find Cookie Allens and Hope and Pat Thomas and real people who know what to do. Now, I'm not taking any credit for that. I'm just happy that they did something about it. Thank God, because that's who we are. And Saturday night seemed to be the night that we showed who Bahamians were. I mean, you know, I saw most of it, but when I saw Saturday night, I said, now, you know something? I like this. Because I felt it. I felt Ronnie Butler. I felt the young lady who was singing along with him. I just wish I knew her name. I mean, I had her name in my head. I didn't write it down. But I think she's a great voice. I think she replaces Therese Hepburn and Sweet Emily. I think she is just what we need. And somebody should pick her up and record her. She's very good. Okay? And so is Synovia. Novia Pia. I think she's very talented. Novia has awesome talent. I saw all of this. And I said, you know, this is who we have and this is what we should use since we're promoting the Bahamas. I maintain that. This one says, Steve, my Jesus, Paul Major reminds me of Aaron Cook, the book, and by God, he using slow, and by God, he's using slow heat. Anyway, this one says, next time, have people employed to clean continuously. This one, but that was another thing. After this thing was over, you know, the streets were filthy. Now, I saw them cleaning because I did drive around. Now, you know, I have to check to know what I'm talking about. I did drive around afterward on Sunday. I made it a point to go places on Sunday because I saw my street and I saw Nassau Street. I said, my God, somebody got to come in and clean. The garbage truck didn't come until this morning to remove the garbage. But the cleaning, people who are supposed to clean the streets after all that confetti and bear can and bear bottle all down Nassau Street and stuff, and I suppose along the parade route, no one was there to clean that right up. I don't know if they got it done from the time I was here in the office, but, you know, that's something that has to be done. Continuous people cleaning right after these events so that we can look good for Sunday morning. Mother's Day was a filthy morning on Mother's Day going to church. Filthy, filthy, filthy. This one says, Steve, KB and Gino D would have been fabulous for Carnival occasion. I missed their presence. Yes. And Veronica Bishop and many others. Yeah, of course their presence was missed. And I believe that the organizers also saw that. They see the wisdom in having it. Anyway, Paul said, he mentioned KB. No, you can't take certain things from us. We got fellas who, you see Funky D? He's a machine. He's the best dancer and entertainer in the Bahamas right now. Nobody got more electricity than him, more energy. The fella he just good. Okay? You trying to tell me him, KB, and these guys come together on this carnival, we couldn't rock this house even more? For God's sake, man. This person says, Steve, we needed KB in the carnival come next year. Steve, we need KB in the carnival come next year, is what that one says. This one says, Steve, KB, and Gino D would have been fabulous at the carnival case. They missed their performance. And so, you know, there's no sense that we play a game that Bahamians, and I don't want Paul Major or anybody try to sell this crap that Bahamian wasn't all that good, and Bahamians, couldn't attract people to come. That Bahamians can't attract the international tourists to come here. If not now, then when? And I said it's a part of my mantra. If not us, if not Bahamians, then who? Montano? Montano is a popular fellow. Obviously, Spider Marshall told me, Steve, you're wrong about Montano. He's an excellent entertainer. I never questioned that. When we compare him versus Bahamian on a scale of accomplishments, he's no comparison. Now, Bahamians have seen Bahamian perform, and they've been rejected, obviously, by some Bahamians who don't understand that the two genres of music just don't mix. As I mentioned earlier, you just play a nice piece of Lionel Richie, Penny Love, but then you come back with one hard, mental, rock, heavy metal. It don't go together. That's the night and day right there with Bahamian, right before Montano. It's just what it is. That doesn't take anything away from Montano. Of course, he's a great performer. And thank God he was there to get the crowd rolling for what they wanted. And that was a mixed crowd of locals, local Bahamians and local residents who are of a different nationality. Let's be real. So as a person texts me and says, Steve, this was Caribbean Carnival. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe that's what we should call it, Caribbean Carnival in the Bahamas. Or maybe we should drop John Canoe. I somehow I don't see where this John Canoe comes in, honestly. I don't see where the John Canoe comes in. You heard the John Canoe say there was an afterthought. I know JJ, the JJ All-Stars, JJ ain't even called me today. JJ got so much money that he made from the carnival. JJ was making all that noise. Man, they grabbed JJ, the JJ All-Stars. I think JJ made good money. JJ told me he didn't get paid up front, so he can get paid afterward. I say, boy, you're supposed to cut your deal where you get paid up front. But JJ will probably call me tomorrow because I know he's listening. And JJ must be feeling so good that, but they didn't get to perform. 5 a.m. in the morning, people are trying to get home. But that's a part of it. These little things are very important, friends. You mustn't count them as foolishness or nothing, because we stopped a whole country. We did. For the distraction or the attraction, based on your perspective, for Carnival. For 2 years, we were talking about it, hyping, radio station blasting, this happened, the next thing. Christie inspecting the parade ground, Christie concerned, this, that, next. We spent a lot of time on Carnival, but we've got real problems, friends. Now that Monday is coming, we've approached the sober tunnel. This is the tunnel of soberness. We've got a lot of work to do. We now got to find some jobs for real, the real tangible jobs, not the thing that mixes with the BS and the propaganda of Carnival. Real jobs that's going to bring income. Carnival gone now. Costumes didn't sell. We know that. And so no matter how much businesses we did for the costumes, that was a failure by the admission of those who were there. But it was a good effort. I'm not hitting the effort. I think if you put more into it and be sober about it, we may get something done. But the real thing now is the challenge is for us to be sober going into what? This week and the weeks to come. 3 years have passed since the PLP has been in the position as governance of the governance of this country. We've now got to begin the process of evaluating where we're going as a country. There are real issues: unemployment, crime problem, poor economy, all of these things that we've got to really deal with. This is the real life now. This is the wake-up call after the big party. We then drink all the rum and eat all the food. We then sing your song and we then dance along. Now we got to go to work. Are you ready? Are you ready? Friends, that's our show for tonight. We call it a day. Thank you so much for being a part of it. Thanks for your participation. I suppose we can go home now. I would have liked to see Gino D perform this at the Carnival. But, they didn't give Gino any money that would have been interesting or offer him anything. Nor did they do this for Veronica Bishop or KB. They said, man, they want too much money. Interesting. But isn't it interesting that they couldn't pay these guys no more than $2,000, but they were able to give a group from down in Angleton $7,500 for a little competition that we saw on stage on Thursday, and another one $10,000, and another one $15,000. My Lord, that doesn't make any sense to me. That's why I want to see the numbers. So go ahead, Paul Major, do your thing. We wait for you in 21 days. Tonight's show has been brought to you by the folks who make it happen.